אנחנו מאמינים בני מאמינים, אנחנו מאמינים בני מאמינים, ואין לנו עמי להישואל, ואין לנו עמי להישואל, אוי אלו אלו על אבינו, אלו אלו על אבינו, אבינו שבשמיים, אנחנו מאמינים בני מאמינים, ואין לנו עמי להישואל.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Boker Tov. We're going to be continuing in our Hebrew class. We've done a restart. We're looking at today's syllables and the rules for the Dagesh. Okay? So let's go ahead and start with the word of prayer. Abba, we thank you, Lord God, for your goodness this morning. Avinu Malkeinu. We pray that our eyes would be open, our ears would be receptive. Lord God, our hearts would be ready to receive Ivrit, Lashon HaKodesh, Hebrew, the holy tongue. And we thank you, Lord God, for giving us the understanding by your Spirit today. B'Shem Yeshua. Amen. All right, so let's take a look at what we're going to learn today. We've been learning about the 22 Hebrew letters. 11 of those letters can be prefixes, which represent a whole word attached to the front of the word. That's why it's called a prefix. It's prefixed to the front of a word. We have 5 vowels. We'll review. And then we have 5 letters in Hebrew that are normally consonant letters, very similar to, you could see the aleph is one of them. And we have 5 vowels, 5 vowel indicators, so certain letters can be vowels. I might as well write those up here too. So we have the aleph, and we have what else? A, and we have the vav, and ein, and then the U. Where I should put U tonight. I'm going in order. Alright, so these are the vowel indicators, okay? So we also know that there are 5 final forms to letters, 5 letters that look different at the end of a word, as in shalom. The mem here, mem sofit. Normally a mem any place else in the word would look like that, so at the end it has a different look, okay? And then the 6 BeGaD, 5 gutturals and 6 BeGaD KeFaT letters. This will come in today in our lesson as we look at not only syllables, open and closed, but the Dagesh rules, 2 forms of Dagesh. Lene, or what we call in Hebrew Dagesh Kal, and forte, what we call Dagesh Chazak. Okay? So let's do our aleph beit. 1, 2, 3. Aleph beit Gimel Dalet Hey. Vav Zayin Chet Tet Yud. Kaf Lamed Mem Nun Samech. Ayin Pei Tzadik Kuf Reish Shin Tav. Tov Meod. Alright, so our first syllable that we can make is an open syllable. Second form is a closed. What do we need for an open syllable?
Consonant.
1 consonant letter
Plus a vowel.
and a vowel. Where would we look for the vowel to be?
Underneath.
Underneath. So for instance, here is what letter?
Aleph.
Aleph. It is quiescent, meaning it's silent. It doesn't sound just like the letter ein. But it is like a shofar that needs the vowel to breathe through this wind instrument, like a shofar. So here is what vowel? Does anybody know the name of this vowel? Kamatz. This is kamatz. And so we have aleph with the kamatz. So we saw the vowels directly underneath. But if you look over here, here's an aleph. Here's an aleph. You can pass them out. Here's an aleph that has no vowel underneath. So where do we look for the vowel if it's not underneath? Directly to the left. Because how do we read in Hebrew? From right to left. So if we don't look directly underneath the letter and find a vowel, we have to look to the left. Okay? So let's do our vowels sounds just one time through so we can pronounce these open syllables. Okay? 1, 2, 3. A, E, I, O, U. Right. If I have lines under a letter, normally it's what sound? Ah. If I have multiple dots under a letter, it's usually what? A. 1 dot? E. 1 dot? E. Okay? Could be followed by U, but 1 dot is E. Underneath the letter. How about a vav with the dot on top, like that bird in the air? Oh, look at that bird in the air. Remember? Come on, ladies. The person on the side, the dots on the side, it is a ooh sound. Very good. All right. So let's go through these vowels. We'll start with the aleph. Okay. So the first one here, what sound do we have? No, we don't have ah. We have ah. This is the long A. Remember, this is your longest A possible. When you see this vowel that looks like a little T under the letter, it is a long A. A long A. I happen to have these two A's in order of length. Long A, medium length A. Okay? So here, what sound is this? Ah. What's this one? Ah. Not too fast. Ah. Ah. Okay? Now I could go shorter and then it would be ah by putting the sheva next to it. Right? Matah. Okay? And that would make it ah. Okay? Now that's the shortest you go with the ah sound. Now, here we don't have the vowel underneath, but we have it where? To the left. Now, I could actually have a vav here for a long sound, a long vowel. Tenu'a gedula, a long vowel. But in this case, I just have it float in the air for a medium sound, same sound as if I would have had the vowel there, the vav, excuse me, the vav there, but in this case, it's floating in the air. So what sound is this? Oh. 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 Oh, that's what that dot's for. And I could do the same thing by taking the aleph and turning it into a mem. What's that sound? Mo. Mo. Okay. Who's that? Moshe. This is Moses. So even though there's no vav, the dot would be floating underneath as if it was right over the vav. Okay? So we have O. How about the letter base? What do we have underneath? What's the name of this vowel? What's the name of the vowel? Patach. Patach. Okay? Remember, patach is a door. So this is a little door opening, and it allows us to open the door a little bit to sound an ah sound. So this is a medium length as this one was. So put the letter bait with the dagesh in it. The dagesh, what's the rule here of this dagesh? This dagesh is a dagesh lene, which only works for BeGaD KeFaT letters. You will only find this dagesh in the BeGaD KeFaT letters. These 6 letters, there was the original changing of the sound of all 6. Now we only pronounce in modern Hebrew a change in sound for these 3 letters, the beit, the kaf, and the pei. Without the dagesh in the center, it would be a V here instead of the B. We'd have a K, H, or CH sound instead of the K. And we'd have a PH, we could say F instead of the P. Okay, so it softens the P to a PH, the K to a KH, the B to a V sound. Okay. All right, so now we see that this is a dagesh lene, because it's a BeGaD KeFaT letter. It is the first letter. Remember, we learned in the last 2 weeks all the special rules for the letters. So this is the letter beit. Everyone say beit. Okay? You'll hear people say bet, but it's really supposed to be pronounced beit. Okay? So here is the sound underneath, the same as this one, patach, and it's a medium ah sound. So pronounce it for me. Ba. Ba. So if I transliterated this one, it would be ba, as this would be just ah. Because there's no equivalent translation for the aleph until you put the vowel underneath. It's a silent letter. Sometimes what you'll see is a little apostrophe in the air showing that there was a letter there. You'll see that in translation. They'll put a little apostrophe in the air before the vowel sound, for the aleph, and for the ein, just to show that there was a constructional vowel there. For construct state, it's there. Because remember, you have to have 3 letters to make up any form of a word as a root. You could drop off a letter on a weaker root, but nonetheless, most of the time you're going to have those letters present. Okay? So here we have ba. What's this one? Va. Va. Why did you pronounce it va instead of ba?
No dagesh.
There's no dagesh. And there's no dagesh, which one? Lene. So this one is for pronunciation. And this one is for doubling the letter. Whether you write a double letter or not, it means you're basically doubling the letter. Okay? Like in the word grammar, there's two M's. In Hebrew, they never waste a letter, so they're just going to put a dot in the center representing that there's two M's for grammar. Of course, that's not a Hebrew word, it's English, okay? So how about this syllable here?
Be.
Be, okay? Now, at the first letter, on the first letter of a word, like Bereshit, even as a prefix, you have to pronounce the E. It is a sounding shva. So this shva is a short E sound, so it is pronounced be. If it was anywhere else, you have the possibility of it being a sheva na instead of a sheva na. So this is a sheva na here. It needs to be sounded in the beginning of the word. Okay? Even though it's short, it does get sounded. Okay? So we have be, right? How about this one?
Da.
What's the name of the letter?
Gimel.
Gimel. Okay? So we have da, right? What about this one?
De.
Okay, say right there is going to give it, some pronounce it with the S sound, some pronounce it with the A sound. Say ray, they pronounce it with a full A sound. Usually it's always going to have that A sound if it's followed by the letter U. In this case, let's just put GE. Okay. Okay. How about this one?
G.
Gi. Gi. Transliterated GI, but it is gi. Alright? These are all open syllables here. Okay. How about this one? What letter is that?
Dalet.
Dalet. What's the vowel underneath?
Come.
Kamatz. It's the longest A, remember? Okay, so put the two together.
Da.
Da. How about this one?
De.
De. Very good.
De.
Now this is how you read Hebrew. One syllable at a time. You don't try to rush through the word. You just take your time, one consonant, one vowel. At the most, you might add an extra consonant to close it off with a sheva nach. But nonetheless, we have a simple way to read Hebrew. Okay? What's this one? De. Especially in front of, in the beginning letter. If it's the beginning letter of a word, like devarim, you pronounce the E sound. Devarim. Okay? So that is again de. Alright. And then we had the example of an open syllable here. What does this sound? Sha. And what's this one?
Long.
Long. So we have an extra consonant, don't we? We actually have a final form, mem sofit. So we have lamed, cholam vav, right? And mem sofit. So we have a consonant. This is no longer a consonant. This is a vowel because the dot's on top. What sound is that? O, right? If the dot was on the side, it would be what? Ooh. Okay, and then a mem sofit. So we have L-O-M. Sha. Lom. Read from right to left. Shalom. Shalom. So you have an open syllable, and then you have a closed syllable. Okay. So now take a look at some handouts that you have there. Let's review the gutturals again, because one thing we'll learn about the Dagesh, the gutturals never have a Dagesh. They don't take a Dagesh. At least a Dagesh Hazak where they double the letter. You can't double two gutturals. It's too hard to double a guttural. So they refuse to use that for that. That sound doesn't work in Hebrew. Okay? The guttural letters, Aleph, He, Chet, Ayin, Resh, are created in the throat. Where are they created? In the throat. Primarily in the back of the throat. Because of the movement of the tongue and throat necessary to pronounce these letters, the normal flow of speech is interrupted whenever these gutturals are spoken. So notice the letters there. The Aleph, the He, the Chet, the Ayin, and the Resh. We have them right here. Okay? These letters will never take a Dagesh. So jump down to the grammatical rules. We're just going to only look at the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 one down. They will never take a what? Dagesh forte, which doubles a letter, because you never double a guttural. It's too hard to have two guttural sounds back to back. So you're not going to double a guttural, which is the dot inside the letter, the Dagesh forte. You will learn more about this with dotted letters. Okay, so that's obviously another lesson. They covered the specifics of that. Now, that's all I want to show you on that page. Now, let's go to the page that says, what is a Dagesh? Okay, what is a Dagesh? Should be this page right here, right? Okay, what is a Dagesh? A Dagesh is a dot in the middle of a letter. This excludes the shuruk and the mapik. Mapik is used as a dot, usually in the last letter of a word, like the letter He for a feminine possessive. For instance, if I say sus, does anybody know what animal a sus is?
Horse.
Horse. How would I say a female horse, a mare? Susa. How would I say her female horse?
Susati.
No, I actually put the mapik in the last letter, the hey, so that I pronounce the hey, which is normally silent, as susa. Susa. That makes it extra feminine, if you will. It's not just a feminine horse, it's a feminine possessive. It's a woman that owns the horse, the female mare. Okay? So that excludes those rules. Those are not considered Dagesh. It has its own name, a mapik, and obviously the same thing with the shuru, which is this vowel here. So that is not a Dagesh. Okay? All right, so it says, what did Dagesh lene originally signify? Originally Dagesh lene, which is your weak Dagesh for pronunciation only, differentiate the pronunciation of 6 letters. What letters are those? What are these? Just give me the acronym. This is called a mnemonic. What is it? Give me the name. BeGaD KeFaT. So here we have the basic rule. It's only for which letters? BeGaD KeFaT. The bait, the gimel, the dalet, the kaf, the pei or fei, and the tav. Okay? So that's a special rule. So that's an acronym. When does one of the BeGaD KeFaT letters permit a Dagesh lene? So there is a special way to know if it's a Dagesh lene. Number one, as I said earlier, if it's in the beginning of a word like Bereshit. What that means is this is not going to refer to the doubling of a letter in the beginning of a word. You don't double a B in the beginning of a word. It just doesn't make any sense. And even in English, it doesn't make any sense. Can you imagine a word being like this? Really bad today. Bad, right? So, from first letter of a word, it has to be lene. It never can be the Dagesh Hazak, which would be the doubling of the letter, the Dagesh forte. So here we have, I'll just put beginning. Beginning of the word, okay? Second, in the middle of a word, to the left of it, silent sheva. Here's a perfect example in the word midbar. Midbar. Okay? So, for instance, if I write this in Hebrew, how do I spell, what would be for the M?
Mem.
Mem. Right. And what would be the vowel for an I? Iri. In this case, we don't have the hirik yud. We have a medium length vowel. So mid. What am I going to do for the D?
Dalet.
Dalet. How am I going to come to a glottal stop here?
Sheva.
Sheva. Okay. And this would be a silent sheva. It's coming to a glottal stop. Mid. It's not sounded as midday. Midday bar. It's midbar. Okay? So that just created a closed syllable, didn't it? You just closed off the syllable because I put a sheva that came to a glottal stop or closed it off with an extra consonant. A consonant, vowel, consonant. Now, this is not a vowel because it's a silent sheva. Only a sounding sheva could be considered a vowel, like at the beginning of a word. So if it's somewhere else in the middle of the word, right? And it's after a silent sheva, as this one. You could also say if it's after a medium length vowel. Okay? Then it's going to be a Dagesh lene. So here we go with the B. We're going to put Dagesh in there, right? And then we have a Resh. And so here we have midbar. Instead of midvar, if I had no Dagesh here, midvar. Right? But there's a Dagesh in here. Because this starts a syllable. So it's really the beginning of a word and the beginning of a syllable. The beginning of any new syllable, if it's a BeGaD KeFaT letter, one of these 6, it's going to strengthen the sound of that letter at the beginning of the word, at the beginning of a new syllable. So here's one syllable, here's the beginning of another syllable. That's why we have things like midbar. Does that make sense? So Dagesh lene is only for what? BeGaD KeFaT, and it only is if it's at the beginning of a word or a syllable. Okay? The next thing we had, of course, I'll just put sheva here. So you'll remember the second rule, it's on your paper. So after a sheva, nach. silent sheva. And then the third thing it says is at the end of a word, not beginning a syllable. At the end of the word, not beginning a syllable, to the left of a silent sheva. And the example they give here is they forgot the sheva underneath. Shemach, shemacht. So literally that Dagesh is there. Now for the top, in today's Hebrew, it doesn't change the sound. It just needs to be there. So that's another example at the end of the word. Okay, so the beginning of a word is syllable, after sheva nach, and at the end of a word.
Is that a mapik?
Mapik, yes. In this case, that is a mapik. Okay. Well, actually, technically, the mapik is really used for the hay, but in this case, it is to tell you that it's the tav. Now, why that? Because instead of the one without the Dagesh, Ashkenazis would say saf, as in good Shabbos. They're making an S sound. And then some transliterate without the Dagesh, th.
Right.
So it is a rule that eventually will come into play. Okay. When does one of the BeGaD KeFaT letters not permit a Dagesh? When the BeGaD KeFaT letter is to the left of a vowel. When the BeGaD KeFaT letter is to the left of a vowel. So of course in this document, for some reason they didn't have the vowel underneath it. It's probably a hirik underneath there. Yivchar. So there would be a vowel underneath the letter Yud, and to the left of it, which is funny, that's coming to a glottal stop. It's not going to have a strong, a Dagesh lene underneath. So basically what they have here is, let's say Yud at the hearing, then they have the letter Veit. Why is there no Dagesh there? Because there's a vowel for it. Okay. And it's not at the beginning of a word, and it's not at the beginning of a syllable. Now, some of this is just theoretical. You really don't need to know all this. Eventually, it just was one of those things that will make sense to you, and just something that at some point you need to know it. Okay? But right now, don't get too caught up in that. Just know that basically these are special rules for BeGaD KeFaT letters. But on a word-to-word basis, you'll learn these rules. Yes?
We had a discussion a couple weeks ago about the word Ivrit, where sometimes you would see it with the sheva nach under the Veit, but sometimes certain pointing would leave the sheva nach off. And I was wondering, is that because it's sometimes seen as not a vowel?
No, I think it's just laziness.
Yeah.
It's simply laziness.
Well, like
Ivrit,
yeah.
right?
That was specific to a phone app at the time, but
Yeah, those are bugs. Those are mistakes.
Right.
They're not really issues of the actual language. It's just simply mistakes. Even when I create things, I'll leave out things, or I'll copy and paste something, and then it doesn't carry over.
Right.
It's simple mistakes of technology. But they're technically Ivrit. This is a perfect example, right?
Yeah.
Closed syllable. It's a BeGaD KeFaT letter, but it's not at the beginning of a word, and it's not at the beginning of a syllable. So therefore, there's no Dagesh. Dagesh lene only goes at the beginning of the word, after sheva nach, or the end of the word. So this is not after, this is a sheva nach. You see what I mean? So there's no Dagesh there. So that's why it's not Ibrit. It's Ivrit. Ivrit. So here you have this ein silent, you have Ivrit, or Ivrit. That's how you say Hebrew.
Right.
Okay, any questions? All right, we're almost done. Let's take a look at the Dagesh forte. We'll review this again next week because I know this takes a lot to get this embedded in your memory banks. Notice what it says. It says, what does the Dagesh forte indicate? We already said it's the doubling of a letter. The doubling of a letter. And usually that's for transliteration, not pronunciation, okay? So, a perfect example, if I add the word in front of shalom, what's this word? Shabbat. Say it together.
Shabbat.
Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom. All right. So here you have open syllable, closed, right? Consonant with a vowel. Here you have a consonant with a vowel with another consonant. Okay, so we have Shabbat shalom. Now, in this case, when I transliterate this word, I'm going to have Sha, just as in shalom, right? The same. And I'm going to look at this. Okay, this is going to be a Dagesh, lene, and forte, all in the same letter. Because it's going to be a strong B, but I'm going to double it when I transliterate. Right? When you transliterate Shabbat, you put two B's, correct? Okay? So, here you have the beginning of a syllable, so we know it's going to be a Dagesh lene. Alright? Alright, so basically, it's not after a silent Shabbat, and so you're going to also have the other rule kick in with the forte. Okay? So it's going to represent both Dagesh lene and forte. Okay? So Shabbat Shalom. I'm sure most Israelis would put one B. They just don't like wasting letters. Okay. It goes on to say on the opposite side, it says, in what letters can the Dagesh forte occur? Any consonant except gutturals. So any consonant letter except the gutturals, they don't take a Dagesh forte. No Dagesh forte. You don't double that letter. When is the Dagesh permitted? When preceded by a vowel, usually short, but also long in an accented syllable. We will have to see examples of that. When is Dagesh forte not permitted? It may not begin or end a word. So again, you would never say in English, bad. You know, just the guy singing the song says bad to a bone, right? You never do that. So never at the beginning of the word, okay? And or at the end of the word. You're not going to have two B's at the end of the word, right? And so we do not use a Dagesh forte, doubling of a letter, at the beginning or the end. It's only for in the middle. Okay? The Dagesh in a non-BeGaD KeFaT word is a Dagesh forte. So if it's not a BeGaD KeFaT, it's automatically going to be a Dagesh forte. So it's only a Dagesh lene for pronunciation if it's one of these 6 letters. Any other letter, except for the gutturals that take no Dagesh forte, it's always going to be a Dagesh forte for the doubling of a letter. As long as it's not the beginning of a word, as long as it's not the end of a word, it's in the middle. HaKodesh, double letter in there. Shabbat, double letter in there. You can go down the line of words that have that Dagesh forte in the middle, and you're going to double the letter. Okay? All right, let's close in prayer. How many feel like you got a little bit of something out of this? Your brain is probably swimming with a Hebrew headache, but you know, it's okay. What we'll do next week is I'll take specific words. I'll probably take it from the Torah portion or from some of our Psalms beat, and I'll just look at some of our words that we're using for singing and for reading and find out how these 2 rules for the syllables and the Dagesh work. So that when you're singing it in transliteration, your brain is thinking, oh, I know that Hebrew word. I know how that's supposed to be spelled. Oh, I know what letter, that's a double letter in there in English transliteration. Oh, it's probably a Dagesh forte. You're going to automatically start thinking like this, okay? So let's close it. Avinu Malkeinu, our Father, our King, we thank you, Lord God, as we have learned how to create syllables open and closed, and how to use the Dagesh lene and the Dagesh forte, or the Dagesh kal and the Dagesh hazak. We thank you, Lord God, for our ability to praise you in the Hebrew tongue, to worship you, to read your word, and to pray, and to communicate the good news of Yeshua with our Hebraic roots intact. I thank you for each student as they're learning to travel in this journey, this walk of faith. We're leaving like Abram, our old way of life, and we're traveling to become an Abraham and a Sarah. Father, Lord God, as we take on our new identity, as learning the Hebraic roots of our faith, Lord God, it's changing and transforming everything we say and do and how we act and live. Father, even how we share the truth of your word, Father, and especially how we exalt and lift up Yeshua the Messiah. For if he be lifted up, he will draw all men unto him. We thank you for this wonderful Shabbat. Hashem Yeshua. Amen. God bless you.